Hi there, this is Chris, the chap in the cap from Motolegends, going to talk to you today about the Schuberth C4 Pro. Now, the C4 Pro is the latest iteration, the latest incarnation of a helmet that was launched a couple of years ago called the C4. There were unfortunately some issues with the C4, which I'm going to talk through today. The C4 Pro was the version of the helmet that righted those wrongs, as it were. Today, it's a great lid. We like it a lot, but I'm going to walk us through all the issues. That enables me to talk about all the things that have been done to the C4 Pro to fix those problems, to make it the helmet that it is today, the helmet that it perhaps should have been right at the very beginning. So back at the beginning of mankind, there was the Schuberth C3 helmet. Fantastic helmet. It is still only just available today. It was one of the very first flip lids, certainly the first high quality flip lid. Flip lids are quieter than full face helmets. It was an incredibly quiet helmet and a very impressive bit of kit. It was the darling of the long distance commuter, the only helmet for many police forces. It was an amazing bit of kit. In 2012, Schuberth saw fit to upgrade the helmet. Now, the C3 Pro, as it became known, was not a different helmet, had about 7 or 8 improvements. It had better venting, it had a plusher interior, it had an aerofoil at the front to help it pass through the air more quietly, it had a spoiler at the back that reduced lift, it had a better FM aerial, because one of the problems with the C3, you had a comm system that went into the collar, but the aerial wasn't very good. So with the new helmet, there was a better aerial built in. It was an improvement, not a wholly different helmet, but let's say it was a 15% better helmet across the board. It has been in the market since 2012. Again, it's had the same position as the C3 did before it. It was the helmet to own if you were doing big mileages, if you were commuting an hour and a half every day and you valued protecting your ears. This was the helmet to have. It had all the bells and whistles. It was a fantastic lid. In 2018, Schuberth introduced the C4 Pro. This is the C4 Pro. Now, the story behind this, the history to it, is that Schuberth had been bought by a venture capital company. They had put lots of money into developing new products. There was nothing particularly wrong with the C3 Pro, but I suppose the company felt it was time to move the bar up a little bit and create a newer version. Technically, when this was first launched, it was aimed at the sports bike rider. Now today, Schuberth will, not completely vehemently, but they will deny that that was ever the case, but we well remember the initial literature talking about this being a more sporting version of the C3 Pro. It had a steeper rake on the visor, which means that when you're leant over on the bike, that's good because you don't want a flat helmet if you're leant forward. It was more appropriate for a lean forward position. It also had a much wider visor, so that when you're leaning over on the bars, it's harder to turn around and do a lifesaver. So on a sports bike, it's better to have a wider visor. By the same token, it had a taller visor. Same reason, you're leant down, you don't want to have to crook your neck to see down the road. So there were a number of components that were designed to make this work better on a sports bike. But the sad truth is that this helmet came to market before it was properly tested. And it has been put to us that it was the venture capital owners who wanted a return on their money. They wanted this helmet out by a certain date. It wasn't really ready. It hadn't spent enough time in the wind tunnel. Not enough people had ridden in it. And it just was not right for market. It was not the finished product. As a result of that, it endured a number of problems that probably would have been solved if this helmet had been properly tested. So the first one, in truth, was to do with this visor. Yes, it is a big visor. It's a large surface area, which is a positive of whatever bike you ride. If you're riding an upright bike or a sports bike, a wider visor has got to be a good thing. But that puts a greater onus on having a means to demist the visor, because you've got a larger surface area, you've got hot breath on the inside of the helmet, a wider area on the outside attracting the cold air, you need to have a top-of-the-line solution to keep that helmet clear of mist. Particularly so when you have a helmet like a flip lid, which is very well sealed. A flip lid is quieter because it has a tighter neck roll, normally has a chin curtain here. The idea is to stop air coming in. When you stop air coming in, you stop air getting out. So that means a flip lid is slightly more, has a greater tendency to mist up anyway. So what Schuberth needed to do was find a top-of-the-line solution to stop this visor misting. They did exactly the opposite. Instead of going for a Pinlock 120, they went for a cheaper solution that wasn't even a Pinlock. That, in retrospect, was the wrong decision to save, I don't know, 50 cents, a dollar. That created all kinds of problems that really this helmet never escaped from. That was the main issue, and if that had never happened, then I think this helmet wouldn't have been dogged in the way it was. But that attracted everyone's attention, and it very quickly got a name as a helmet that just didn't work. The other things that were less than perfect about it, some of them were silly little things, but this vent at the front, it just fell off. It hadn't been, they hadn't used a strong enough glue. I don't know what they hadn't done, but that became a bit of an issue. The comms system, one of the USPs of this helmet, one of the reasons that people were attracted to it was that it had a very clever comms system. Now, it was developed with Senna. No problem with Senna. They supply the comms for Shui as well. As far as we're concerned, they're top of the line. But the system here was a plug-and-play system. And what you've got here, you've got compartments here. The helmet is pre-wired. It had a microphone in, it had earphones in. You just bought a box that had two little cassettes. You put one in here, which was the brains, one in here was the battery, closed them up, and you were, in theory, ready to go to talk to other people, to hear commands from the GPS, to take phone calls and so on. But, again, it hadn't been fully tested and it didn't work in the way that it should have done. The main issue, I think, was the microphone. Now, the microphone was up here in the forehead. The idea was that that wouldn't attract a lot of wind noise, but the problem was that if you were doing speed and there was wind noise, because you can't avoid wind noise on a bike, when you wanted to raise your voice to say something to someone on another bike, it wasn't picked up here. It was too remote. The idea was that this works on a kind of bones technology. It feels the sound and transmits it, but it didn't enable you to shout louder, and therefore the person who wasn't wearing one of these just couldn't hear you. The microphone just didn't work. There were also some intermittent issues with the battery connection. So there were wiring issues. We don't really know what happened, but we had a lot of issues when this helmet first came out. People were losing connection, were sending the helmet back. They found a mod for it fairly quickly, but it, again, was another element that hadn't been properly tested. Lots of other little issues. There was perhaps a little bit, there were too many cases where there was some water ingress here. I suppose the other thing that was disappointing to people, this was called the C4. The C3 Pro had been before it. People expected it to be better, and as it was a Schuberth, they expected it to be quieter. It just wasn't. So a number of reasons why it wasn't, but there was a general disappointment that people thought they were moving up from the C3 Pro to the C4, and whilst it was a cleverer helmet, whilst it was a very pretty helmet, whilst it was a technically superior helmet, as a piece of headwear on the motorcycle, it didn't work quite as well. So this helmet was only on the market for, I think, a little over a year before they launched a new version, the C4 Pro, which is the version that I'm really going to talk about today. The C4 Pro addresses all of the issues that were problematic with the C4. I'm going to go and talk about those now. So I think in that last segment I said that the helmet in front of me was the C4 Pro. It wasn't. That was the C4. This is the C4 Pro. Now, we first started marketing this helmet in the spring of 2019. We have not done a full review on it because we were a little bit concerned that there had been so many problems with the C4. We didn't want to just go out and tell everyone this helmet is now fantastic. We had meetings with Schuberth. We went over to see them in Germany. They talked us through all the mods that they had done. It all sounded as though they had done the right thing. But we wanted to leave this a little while until we had managed to live with it. We've done some riding in it. We've sold a number to customers. We've got feedback from those customers. So we wanted to leave it at about a year, which is about now, until we did a full review of it, confirming what works, what doesn't, and so on. So this is the C4 Pro. In fact, here in a particularly fetching colorway, this is part of the new 2020 collection. Now, the things that they did to improve the helmet. The main one, as I mentioned, the main issue was this huge visor. The solution was very simple, to put in a Pinlock 120 visor. It's what clearly Schuberth should have done all along. It now comes fitted in the box with a Pinlock 120. We have not had any issues. We've not had a single customer in the last year who have said, my helmet is fogging up. So a very simple solution, but it's the right solution. That problem is now solved. They have put a new plumper seal here, so any water ingress issues which people sometimes experience on the C4 again should have disappeared. We have not had anyone come in. As far as I know, I don't see every customer who comes into the building obviously, but as far as I know, there are no longer problems with the helmet leaking. The comms were so clever, it was so upsetting in a way that they didn't get it right. But what we have now, they have moved the microphone. A very simple fix. There's a little button microphone here. I think Graham will come in and do a close-up of that later, but it's a lovely mic. One of the problems, it has to be said, with the old C3 when it had the boom mic was that mic was always in your face. The center system for the C3 Pro is better, but this is probably the nicest mic there is. It works perfectly well. It can detect the change in volume of your voice. It's never in the way. The system works well. The other part of the problem with the comm system had been the wiring. That has been beefed up. Again, in the last year, no one has come in saying, I'm getting intermittent issues with the comms. So the comm system now works properly, as indeed it should. The last main issue was noise. And Schuberth is known for noise, so this helmet, the C4, should never have gone out until it was as quiet as or quieter than the C3 Pro. And they tell us now officially that this is very much as quiet as the C3 Pro. Indeed, in some instances, it is quieter. There's another version of this helmet called the C4 Basic, which doesn't take the comms, that's even quieter again. So the C4 Pro is now a quiet helmet. They did a number of things. Basically, all of the cavities in the helmet, they put in much better sound deadening material. Places like where the drop-down sun visor comes down, they put some sound deadening material here, because wherever there's a cavity in a helmet, there's a propensity to create noise. Where the battery goes and the brains for the comm system, they padded that out with acoustic material. So they've made the helmet much quieter. The biggest thing they've done, however, is a new plush lining. And it is indeed a very plush. It has a kind of velvet finish to it. It is very comfortable indeed. It feels very soft, but it's somewhat thicker, and the lining also absorbs noise. So a number of components make a contribution to the overall effect, but basically this helmet is now as quiet as anything on the market. Problem, if there is a problem with this lining, not a problem, it's just a factor that you need to be aware of, is that all they've done, the shell is the same shell as the C4. So they put a thicker lining in, and guess what? That's changed the sizing a wee bit. So it's changed it about a half a size. So if you were a medium in a C4 and decide that you want to upgrade to a C4 Pro, you're not necessarily going to be a medium in the C4 Pro. I, for example, fall exactly into that category. I have a C3 Pro actually in a medium. I was a C4 in a medium, but this is a large. This one fits me perfectly. So if you want to move to the C4 Pro, it is a fantastic lid. Now, it's everything that the C4 should have been, but you do need to try it on. The other reason you need to try it on is because it has a slightly different fit to some helmets. In fact, I think when you're buying a helmet at this end of the market, it is crazy to just take a risk, say my head is a 57, order a fit at 57 and hope it works. Everyone has a different head shape. Every helmet has a different shape. We need to, if you come in to see us here, we need to match you to the helmet. Now, Schuberths in our eyes have an oval shape. This has a much rounder shape. So much as I love Schuberths, and I think the Neotech 2 is a great helmet, I cannot wear one. My head is too wide here. I fit a Schuberth much better. So you need to go and see a dealer who understands these things, who can explain it, because it may be that this is the perfect helmet for you, but if you have a long oval head and you put this on, it might not be the perfect helmet for you, because if you have more of a shoey shaped head, you're going to have big gaps here. The problem with Schuberth, and I think it's something that they are minded to address over the coming years, is that you cannot change the cheek pads, you cannot change the headliners. And again, at this end of the market, that's not really acceptable when you're paying this kind of money. You want to get the helmet right, and at present, it's kind of pot luck. Sometimes a Schuberth will work, sometimes it won't, but there's nothing that we as a dealer or any dealer can do about it to change the fit. So I think that will happen in the future, but for now, this is the way it is. It's going to suit a lot of people. If you've had a Schuberth in the past, then I think you won't have a problem with this, but you probably need to try it on because of the change in size over the previous models. So that's it. That's the C4 Pro. It's always been a very pretty helmet. It's a much prettier helmet, for example, than the Schuey Neotech 2. And if you're someone who's reticent about riding a flip lid because of the connotations, the policemen and the old people with BMWs and pipes and slippers, then one has to say that this is much more like a full face helmet than the Neotech 2. The line up the side is very discreet. Once you've got this on rather, no one's going to think it's a flip lid helmet. So this is the prettiest, it's the sportiest of the flip lid helmets. It is now a fantastic helmet. No one need have any qualms about wearing this. In fact, I'm now going to get myself a C4 Pro. I particularly like this colorway, so this helmet I think will become mine. So the C4 Pro, now available, as you can see, in a whole array of colors. I have not today gone into the C4 Pro in a particularly detailed manner. I didn't intend this to be that kind of review. I'm sure you can find similar reviews on the internet that will tell you what the glass fiber shells are made with, what the consistency is of the grade 1 optical visor, how the venting works and so on. My aim today was more to talk about the problems that the C4 had and to reassure people looking at the C4 Pro that all of those problems are now over and done with, and I think they are. So, as I've said already, I think this is a helmet that anyone can buy with confidence. It's a great helmet. There are, just whilst we've got them all here, in terms of pricing, there's a variation of prices. You go from a basic white, just over £500, I think that's 525, up to about £700 for the super fancy carbon jobs. There are some great graphics this year, so plenty of choice. What has to be said is that the C3 Pro is pretty much on its way out. I think it'll be around for a little while yet, but clearly I think we're down now to 3 or 4 colors of the C3 Pro. That is a helmet that Schuberth have decided to do away with. The C4 Pro is the future. If you're looking at the carbon version, very fancy, a little bit lighter. A flip lid is never going to be the lightest lid on the market because you've got all the metal bits, the mechanisms that enable you to open it, so it's never going to be super light, but this is very fancy. The carbon fiber is done in a very trick way. It's got lots of squares on it, looks very precise. It's a lovely lid. But you should know that if you are wanting to use the comms and talk to another rider, that the C4 Pro in carbon will have a less of a talking distance. So on most of the C4 Pros, you're going to have up to a mile maybe. With this, I think we're down to 400 meters. So just be careful. If you want a super trick flip lid and you like carbon, this is the one to go for. But if you're going to be using comms, then I'm not sure that that's necessarily the best choice. Comms, by the way, there are 2 comms packages. There's a basic and a standard. I think the basic's about £200. The superior one is 250. When you buy a comm system with a helmet, then you save 20% on the cost of the comms. So always best to buy them at the same time. There's a bit of a savings there. If you want to look at other flip lid helmets, and these are not the only flip lid helmets we sell, then visit the website motolegends.com. If you want to check out the details, because as I've said, I've not gone through all of the finite details on these. If you want to look at the details, check the sizes, the prices of individual colors, then if you click on the button top right, that will take you directly to our C4 Pro page. You can check it all there. If you want to buy one there and then, of course, you can do that. When you buy from Motolegends, we try to make the process simple, easy and risk-free. So nothing you buy, no protected wear that you buy from our website attracts any postage charge. Similarly, if when you receive something, if you don't like it, if it doesn't look like the product that you thought you'd seen on screen, if it doesn't fit, whatever your reasons are, you can return it again at our cost. And we give you a full 12 months to do that. Now, clearly we're not looking for you to go and ride around in a helmet for 6-9 months, send it back, say, no, I don't like it. But what we're trying to do is take all the pressure off you, so there's no rush to get this back to us. If you're going away, if you're busy doing other things, relax. You have a 12-month period to get any product back to us. And as I've said, when you do, that's free of any charge to you. We also have an absolutely unbeatable price promise. Now, the most famous price promise in the business is John Lewis, never knowingly undersold. They will match anyone's price. We go much better than that. We will beat any competitor's discounted price by 10%. So if we are selling a helmet for £500 and you find that same helmet being sold by a retailer in the UK for £400, then we will sell that helmet to you for £360. You can do that. You can affect the price beat guarantee when you first buy it, or you've got up to a fortnight after you buy the item to affect it. So there's no rush. You can buy something from us, go home, hit the internet, find a better price, contact us, and we will just credit your credit card. There are a few terms and conditions on the website. They're not at all onerous, but if you want to check it out, then visit the website. One thing I would say is that we will not price beat a European seller, but we will price match a European seller. So if you find one of these helmets from someone in Germany, Italy or Spain, we will match their price, including their P&P. Given the issues that you might have if you wanted to return a helmet because you had a fault on it, to tell the truth, if you can buy a helmet at the same price in the UK, you'd be foolish not to. Anyway, if in the future you would like to receive bulletins from us about new products, then go to the front page of the website. At the top of the page, there's a piece of script that says newsletter sign up. Click on there. A couple of seconds later, you'll be signed up. You'll then receive bulletins from us as and when new products come into the building. If you would prefer, however, to get your information videographically in this form, then we would be simply delighted if you wanted to become a subscriber to our YouTube channel, and you can do that by clicking on the button below. I would like to make one final point about Motolegends, because we're not just a mail order company, we're not just an internet company, we are a shop as well. We have a fabulous shop here in Guildford, on the edges of Guildford in Surrey. The footprint of the shop is not huge by any means, but attached to it is our warehouse with 3 floors and £2 million worth of gear, which makes this technically the second largest shop in the country. So whatever you come here for, be it a pair of boots, pair of gloves, jacket, you stand more chance of finding the item you want in the colour you want in the size you need here than in any shop in the country. Now, that's particularly important with helmets, and I think it's quite relevant with the Schuberth C4 Pro. When you come and see us, we go through a number of tests. We'll make sure that it fits properly. We may, who knows, we may end up saying, I'm sorry, much as you love the C4 Pro, this helmet does not work on you. It does not fit you properly. And it's important that a helmet fits properly, because for various reasons, if a helmet doesn't fit, if it's too tight or too loose, it doesn't perform its primary function in the way that it should. So it's really important that we get it right. But it may be that having tried this on, we take you to another helmet because it suits your head shape better. So if you want one of these helmets, that's fine. You can order, mail order. Maybe you're prepared to take the risk that even though the size has changed over Schuberth sizes in the past, you're pretty confident you're going to get it right. That's fine by us. But if you really want to get it spot on, if you want to get it right first time, take no risks, come and see us and we'll sort it all out here. Anyway, this has been Chris at Motolegends. Thanks for listening. We'll talk again soon.